You've probably had people reach out to you for hypnosis for physical symptoms and basically medical problems. I'm Penny. I'm a board-certified hypnotist, certified professional hypnosis instructor, but I was also a nurse anesthetist for 15 years before I left to run my practice full time. When I initially became a hypnotist, I almost exclusively worked with people who were referrals from the surgeons and other physicians that I worked with at the hospital. So I want to talk to you a little bit about using hypnosis for medical referrals and for other symptoms. Now, there's a medical legal piece that I have to state here, and it is something that you should be very aware of. Wherever it is that you live, you need to follow your state laws. You need to follow the federal law on what you can and what you cannot claim with your hypnosis. And you should always, always, always have some sort of a physician confirmation that hypnosis is safe, and you have the client secure that for you. You do not go chase the doctor. You have a form that the client can take to their doctor and say, hey, I want to use hypnosis for this. So I'm going to give you just a teeny tiny physiology lesson because it's going to help you understand where these symptoms come into play. Because stress is the leading cause of inflammation, and the majority of the reasons that patients end up in doctor's offices for everything from high blood pressure to heart attack to diabetes. Now, here in America, our food supply, processed foods, have become such a huge factor in our physical health and well-being that, 10, 15 years ago, most of it could have been mental, emotional, but now a lot of those disruptors causing inflammation are environmental. They're things that we ingest. They're blue light, things of that nature. So I'm just going to take a quick moment before we dive into this. And I'm just going to put environmental factors over here. Because these are things you're not going to direct the client that these things are their issues. But you can ask them, do you eat a lot of processed foods? Do you eat TV dinners? Do you microwave in plastic? And maybe they believe they don't have time or they don't know how to eat healthy, things like that. And you can actually, if this is a problem, some of your hypnosis sessions can be to help them reframe and to develop an affinity, a desire to eat healthier foods, a desire to prepare their meals, to help them reframe and see how much cheaper it actually is to eat healthy in the long term, as opposed to eating for convenience in the short term. So we've got processed foods, cooking in plastics. We've got all the chemicals people put on their skin. The U.S. has some of the most toxic skincare products, shampoos, conditioners. A lot of the stuff we have here, you go to Europe, that stuff is banned because it's carcinogens. They're endocrine disruptors. So I'm going to put personal care products, dryer sheets, fragrances. Let's see, processed foods, plastics, blue light. So you can do sessions, and this is actually in my book, Breaking the Fibro Code. I talk about a study. It was done quite some time ago before we now have all this research around blue light. Now the research is there for blue light, but at the time that research wasn't there. They found that people had improved anxiety, depression scores, and lower chronic pain scores from spending 20 minutes outside in the sunlight 3 times a week. So getting people to just sit outside and get morning sunlight or noontime sunlight or end of day sunlight. Those red rays come at sunrise and sunset. So those are some things you might be able to address. With any health issue, that becomes key. So I encourage you, if you want to work with people who have chronic health conditions, autoimmune, chronic inflammatory conditions, anything like that, to find yourself some legitimate resources on mitochondria, light, blue light, processed foods, and then create yourself some hypnosis scripts or a bank of suggestions that you can work into what you're doing with the client, that if they do want to eliminate the processed foods, you have that ready and available to go. Now, I don't tell people to change things. You can provide them with an information sheet with links to resources and say, I really encourage you to go read on this, because if you're open to it, I would like to do hypnosis to help you reduce your sugar intake, your processed flour intake, all of these things. And if you want the book, I'll put the link in the description below. You can go get the book on Amazon. Actually, I have an update to it, but the update is not published yet. That also takes into account hormone replacement therapy for women. That has been a huge turnaround since I wrote the book. Perimenopause and menopause are huge factors. And when I have clients come to me and they're having a lot of physical symptoms, and they're coming to me for mental, emotional support, confidence, motivation, all the things, and we're on an emotional roller coaster, and that emotional roller coaster is not making sense for what we're doing, I ask them, do you have a functional medicine physician? Do you have a gynecologist who specializes in perimenopause and menopause? You want somebody who's board certified and specializes. You don't want to go to just anybody. And I encourage them to get that check out, because those are things that hypnosis cannot help. And they have a very real impact, but together with the hypnosis, you can fundamentally change someone's life. So let's get into the physiology of this. You've probably heard of vagal tone and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. And then I'm sure we've all heard of fight or flight. Or that's the sympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system has multiple nervous system pathways. It has endocrine pathways. It's tied into your cortisol, the gut, the skin, all the things. Because fight or flight is a survival mechanism, there are what we call redundancies or duplicates. They're not true duplicates, but there are multiple ways to get that system activated. The parasympathetic nervous system consists of one nerve. It's the vagus. Vagus nerve for vagrant, which means the wanderer. Okay? Your fight or flight system, here's what it's going to do. It's going to dilate pupils. Excuse me. It's going to sharpen vision. It's going to increase blood to the heart, the large muscles, and the brain. And by increasing blood to the heart, it increases blood to the lungs. In other words, you got to be able to see the danger that's coming and run like a madman. or fight like hell to survive. So your large muscle groups, your brain, your heart, your lungs, get the majority of the blood flow. People who have chronic illness, where do they tend to have that illness? They have fatty liver disease, they have toxic liver, their immune system's bust, they've got bad skin conditions, their gut is a mess, they have reflux, they have PCOS, they can't get pregnant, their periods are all over the place, they have erectile dysfunction, they have infertility issues. That's because when we're in fight or flight, everything's going here. That is the priority. Whereas when we're in our parasympathetic, and people think that the parasympathetic is like, oh, we need to switch this on. No, we're supposed to live here. Fight or flight is only for emergencies or for those brief moments of eustress, where we're getting married and we're excited. That's a healthy stress. But chronic stress, it weakens the immune system. It increases inflammation. It increases blood clotting. And that increased inflammation, that leads to elevated blood sugar. You're going for sweets for fuel. That inflammation irritates the blood vessels. So the body takes the cholesterol and lays down plaques in the blood vessels because the blood vessels become raw. Imagine eczema on your skin. Imagine that inside your blood vessels. Your cholesterol becomes the Band-Aid for those inflammatory breakouts in the blood vessels. Your vagus nerve, this is in medicine, we call this rest and digest. And if you can remember that right there, then you'll know what the vagus nerve is for. This is where we tear. We have tears. This is where we digest our food, obviously. Sex. Our skin looks really good when we're in this state. We have low inflammation. Our blood pressure is down. Our heart rate is down. And we have improved heart rate variability. And there are now hypnosis research studies showing a connection between consistent use of hypnosis and improved heart rate variability. Improved heart rate variability means you're not living here. So when you think of this, I need you to think POTS. So when someone goes into a state of hypnosis, they're in a state of focused attention. We're going to do a little neuroscience here. To go into a state of focused attention, fight or flight, that's beta. That's beta. Parasympathetic is alpha and theta. A lot of people say hypnosis is theta. Hypnosis is alpha. Hypnosis is neither of those things. Hypnosis is a state of focused attention. But when you're in that state of focused attention, you are turning down, you're blocking out the reactivity to external stimuli. You are quieting down the default mode network, that inner chatter, when you go into that state of focused attention. So when we go into hypnosis and the client tunes out the external stimuli, they turn down the internal chatter, the worry, the fear, the monkeys in the trees in their mind. They're no longer trying to survive because that's what that chatter is. That chatter is survival. It's problem solving. There's an issue here and I got to fix it. I need to take care of this. You take that. guide them into hypnosis, and they experience alpha and theta. Okay. The more someone practices hypnosis, they begin to retrain their brain to go into alpha and theta, and they're disrupting chronic fight or flight. You get improved heart rate variability, which means they're in a more sustainable state where their body can heal. Parasympathetic, this is where your body heals. If you can't get out of this into this, the body cannot activate its own internal healing mechanisms. Remember, hypnosis does not treat or cure anything. But what we do is we help people decrease the stress in their lives. We give them a tool to quiet the inner mind and the inner stress. And this is why I love 5-Path and I love conversational hypnosis. We can unlock and release those repressed, suppressed emotions that they've never allowed themselves to feel, the ones that have been ignored, because internal emotions and memories fuel all of this. It fuels the self-talk, the need to control. Okay? So when you're doing hypnosis for these symptoms, you want to start with, number one, if they're having pain, heart pain, belly pain, headaches, pain whatsoever, do not move forward without a physician's note. I don't care if they tell you they've had 10 workups. Say, can you just bring me a note that your doctor says that, this won't mask any symptoms that they need to be aware of. That's all there is to it. And you're going to think about this from a nervous system perspective. You don't need to know the nervous system, but I want to give you an example of what I mean here. And, if you want to work exclusively with clinical issues, go take a medical hypnosis training so you really understand this. You don't want to fly by the seat of your pants with this. But where you can start is by helping people mitigate stress in their lives. Begin to eliminate the stress, and these things will improve. Okay? But let me give you an example. Years ago in Connecticut, I had a woman come to me. She had gastroparesis, and they were getting ready to put in a gastric stimulator, a vagus nerve stimulator, so that her stomach would contract. And I know this. This is what I do. So we're talking about it, and we get into the hypnosis, and after the hypnosis, she was very upset with me. And I'm like, talk to me. What's happened? She goes, I don't need to relax. I don't need to relax. That's the problem. My stomach is relaxed. And I had to explain to her, no, your stomach is not relaxed. Your stomach is paralyzed from fear. Your sympathetic dominant, your sympathetic nervous system is so active, your vagus nerve doesn't even have a chance of sending a signal to your stomach, telling your stomach to have peristalsis. Okay? A lot of inflammatory bowel disease comes from blood flow disruptions in gut health. Help them with their stress. IBS, help them with their stress. Crohn's disease, help them with their stress. Eczema, help them with their stress. Find out what's going on with their lives, explain to them the connection, teach them some tools, and then also either have that medical hypnosis training or reach out to someone and create. You can find them online. There are proven hypnosis scripts, but if you're going to write a symptom-specific script, you need to have an understanding of what's going on so you don't suggest the wrong thing. Because with a gastroparesis woman, if I had been giving suggestions that were not about taking her mind into a state of relaxation, letting her mind relax so her stomach could digest, I would have been giving the wrong suggestions. So you do want to know what you're doing when you do these things. But teach. A lot of people Wim Hof, they cold plunge, they box breathe. We're normally supposed to take natural, slow, diaphragmatic breaths. That's our baseline. Natural, diaphragmatic breaths. You can teach a normal, natural, diaphragmatic breath that activates the vagus nerve, and you can create a hypnotic anchor in hypnosis to anchor that in and allow them to become classically conditioned to, when they use that hypnotic anchor, that their parasympathetic nervous system becomes activated and they can literally retrain their nervous system. And then their body is in a state that everything else that they're doing will work. But again, if you're going to do medical hypnosis, if you're going to work with clinical issues, they're within the NGH, you can send a letter. There's a section in there that says, you can send a letter to the physician where you get the name. You have to have the client sign a release that you can contact the physician. You say, I'm just going to send this general letter that you reached out to me for hypnosis for your IBS or hypnosis for your reflux. I'm just going to send this letter to them. So if they have any disagreement, you put in that letter, if there are any reasons that you know of that hypnosis is contraindicated or may mask significant symptoms that you need to be aware of, please contact my office immediately at this number. And in that letter, you include another release that the client has signed that says, yes, my doctor can contact you. So they have it right in front of them. And then you send it off to the doctor. Okay? But if you're going to give symptom-specific suggestions, you want deeper training, for sure. The other thing is if you want to do pain management, I have a course, Master Pain Management Hypnosis, where I have a systematic approach to going through that pain process. And within Master Pain Management, I have a client self-assessment for their pain symptoms. And that self-assessment actually becomes your format for your hypnotic suggestions in the work that you do. So it really removes the mental burden from customizing the suggestions that you give your clients. Because while I do root cause hypnosis, with some physical issues, and particularly with pain, there might be emotional components to that to deal with, the frustrations, the doubt, the negative self-talk, am I ever going to get better, the catastrophizing, those types of things. But there are also suggestions that go directly to the issue, and pain is one of those things. I've seen many pain clients and many IBS clients where I never did any root cause work at all and got them 90 to 100% resolution. So I'll put the link in the description for Master Pain Management Hypnosis. It's a self-paced course. There's a lot of research articles that you can print out, that you can share with physicians you might want to get referrals with, and it includes the assessment, among other things, in the course. So that'll be in the description. Be sure to hit subscribe and like this video, and I will see you in the next one.